Good evening and welcome into the Pacers Podcast Show. I'm Kyle Newman, your host.
And I'm Rhett Hensley, your co-host.
We have a great lineup for the next hour. We will discuss if the NBA should raise the basketball rim and change any other rules, talk about if rings alone define a player's NBA career legacy, chat about the top 5 least favorite Pacers of all time, and discuss Indiana's fan base. Rhett Hensley, 14th Pacers Podcast Show. We're rolling, baby. How are you doing tonight? A little later tonight because you had to work. So we had to postpone this a little bit.
Making the dough, rolling in the big bucks.
That's always good news. How are you tonight? Are you tired?
I'm tired. I'm a little tired. You know, I could take a nap, but that's when I'm having my Coke. I'll be up all night.
There you go. But you're always awake enough for the Pacers Podcast Show, aren't you?
I am.
Good.
Damn, I am.
Me too. Hey, I do. Like green eggs and ham. Absolutely. Well, let's get into this, Rhett. Let's talk about the NBA possibly, and I say possibly, but after doing some research, it's going to happen, and I want to see what you think. The NBA is going to raise the rim height to 11 feet in 2018. It is official, and Adam Silver is going to make a statement on it after the playoffs in the summer. At some point, it can be expected. But this is new coming out. Rhett, what do you think about this? They are changing the tradition of basketball as we know it. It will happen. 1 foot higher. What do you think?
Oh my God, that is stupid. The tradition alone. That's why it should not be left alone.
Hey, and that I agree with you just on that point. Absolutely. It's crazy to me, but it is going to happen, and I'm a little bit surprised because we haven't heard much about this, and that's why, you know, after doing a little research and digging, they've been trying to keep this on in the back of the rule changes and policies and not distract from the playoffs or anything that's been going on. But it's something that's been discussed for a couple of years actually. And just a few months ago, the report came out that this has been made official after the team owners, coaches, and sports physiologists met. They are going to raise the regulation by a foot in 2018. This is surprising to me, and I don't like it. I agree with you. I think the tradition of 10 feet, I mean, let's face it, the game was invented on that by James Naismith. This was a game of tradition and 10 feet being the set height. And after all of these years, over 100 years, you're going to change that? And let's talk a little bit about why, though. That's kind of led to why they're going to make the change is basically players are so athletic nowadays, and they're dunking with ease, and apparently some fans don't like that. Some fans want it to be challenging, more challenging, let's say, for these professionals at this level. I'm going to read a couple comments because there's a debate going on of NBA fans, and it's pretty much split down the board. Is this a good idea, raising the rim by a foot? And I'll read to you, Rhett, a couple of the for it's and a couple of the against it's, and I want to hear what you have to say and comment. But one person said, why not try it? The most exciting team in basketball in my mind is Golden State, a team that shoots lights out. What skill is involved in jumping 6 inches to slam it? Raising the rim would bring back strategy instead of isolating the biggest guy on the court and watching him back guys in for a dunk. Teams would have to run more screens and set offenses. Another guy commented, or girl, and said, make it 13 or 14 feet. Takes more skill to throw it than drop it in. I think this would make more people interested in the sport and would make players have to have skill instead of just being tall. Better than genetics in my mind. So apparently before I read the people who are against it, Rhett, what do you have to say about that? People think that would be better for the game.
Well, I like tradition. And Kyle, I know that you like tradition.
I love tradition.
So, when I think of this, I don't like it. Don't like it whatsoever, but I can see what other people are coming from when they're bringing this into talk because of the fact that it is less challenging for, let's say,
LeBron James.
Yeah, LeBron James or DeAndre Jordan that just gets a lob every time down the court, or Blake Griffin. I mean, it's not challenging, and watching a team like Golden State, it's phenomenal. I love watching them.
Yes,
because
I agree.
Skill.
It is skill, and I disagree with that fan who said that that's more exciting. Like a team, you know, they find that the most exciting team in basketball is Golden State, but yet they're talking about raising the rim from the aspect of that team. I actually find it more exciting, quite honestly, seeing the Splash Brothers make threes like they do, rather than seeing a dunk, you know, especially a simple dunk. You know, obviously entertaining ones are great, but I'm a shooter. You're a shooter. We love to shoot, and we appreciate shooters, and that's a skill. That's part of the game. You know, that's a tradition. So I think that I definitely disagree with the point that they are making because, you know, there's different strategies in the game. Golden State happens to be a team that is built on shooting. Some teams are built on dunking, like the Clippers, but that's their strategy. And, you know, when they say raising the rim would bring back strategy instead of isolating the biggest guy on the court and watching him back in for a dunk, how many teams actually do that? I mean, this game has become a guards game as it is. So I don't necessarily agree with their point. I agree with you. I do see the pros to this of making it more challenging, and that would be more entertaining. So, you know, maybe this will be one of those things where would we get used to it after it is the norm, like we did to 10 feet. I mean, obviously it would take some time. It would be more challenging if they just decided, you know what, all basketball goals that are sold across the nation are going to be 11 feet. That makes it more challenging for us. But so I wouldn't like to see that. But in the game, I don't know. Let's see what a couple people who are against it have to say. Why change the game we know and love? All of the NBA All-Stars of the past and present learned to play on a 10-feet rim. The game is great on the 10-feet rim. Isn't height already really important? Why make it more? It would be a different sport. The stars we love might not even be good enough for the NBA anymore. Not to mention how a lot of juniors would not be able to shoot, rebound, or be dominant. What about the rising players of the game? They've waited their entire life to play in the NBA, worked hard, and now they might be beaten out of a spot by some lazy person who is just tall, not athletic. So please do not raise the rim. Another person said, stop drafting 7 feet tall players for their height advantage. Go back to the days where the average player was 6 feet tall, maybe 6'2" at most. Then the game would be better. Gives the average man his game back. I'm 6'2" and love the game. I can't compete against the giants they draft today. Otherwise, I'd be in the NBA. Don't raise the rim. So, what do you have to say about that, right? Clearly, they're kind of agreeing with us in tradition. But they bring up interesting points about changing what everybody has been used to and worked at to try and get to that level, and now they're going to have to try and get used to something else. I mean, let's face it, raising the rim by a foot is a huge difference. I mean, you can literally not be the same shooter. It would take a long time to practice. I mean, what do you think about that? Even players currently, I mean, they're going to have to immediately start training in the summer shooting on an 11-foot goal.
It is. I don't like it. I will not like that. It's irritating that they keep trying to make all these rule changes to me. So, you know, I think it's a bad step for Adam Silver.
I do too. And we've already talked about Adam Silver and some big decisions he has to make here with in regards to rules. And this kind of, in my mind, would be a step in the wrong direction. But like I said, the report here is that this has been a decision that's made. So it's like we're just waiting for Adam Silver to confirm it. Now, maybe there wasn't complete truth, but I was reading in some other articles too that it was brought up. So this seems like it's going to happen. It will be interesting to see with it, but I agree with you. Why change the tradition? And not only that, I go beyond that. I think it will change the players' strategy and what they're good at. I mean, think of even Steph Curry. I mean, they're great shooters and all, but he's a great shooter used to shooting on the 10-foot rim his whole life.
Yeah.
So, I mean, let's face it. That will really change. You can't even buy an 11-foot rim. If you're gonna get a goal that is a foot higher, you're gonna have to have it mounted on the garage door or something where you can raise it. I mean, that's just not something that happens. So I think it would change the players and how much more preparation would have to go into it. I just see it kind of being a disaster, quite honestly. I mean, The first experiment year I see being like a complete different year. I mean, I'm talking like players that might drop 5 points or more in averages because of this. That type of a dramatic change, and I don't think that's good for the game. Do you?
No, I do not. I think it's a step in the wrong direction, and I think that a lot of fans, a lot of the older fans, they're gonna. I think they're gonna see quite a bit of a decrease in people showing up for the games if they do that. I think it's gonna irritate people.
I agree with it. I think the only aspect that comes out that's good from it is that it would be more challenging for the players as far as dunking goes. But I don't think they're taking into consideration shooting. Okay, fine. Make it more challenging for the dunkers, the athletic pros that can elevate it with ease. But how about the shooters? It's not just dunking that this would affect. So I agree. I find that to be interesting, and really the only aspect of it that would be good is making it a little more challenging as far as dunking goes. But for quite a lot of players, it's still pretty challenging. So I don't know. So kind of want to lead into other rule changes then. If this is something that's going to happen, is there anything that you would like to see change as far as rules go?
Clear path foul.
And I think that we're going to agree on a couple of them we're going to mention, but why don't you go ahead and explain what you just talked about there?
Clear path foul. I was watching the game earlier, and the
Warriors Rockets game.
Warriors and Rockets, yes. And I think that there's flaws in the system for that, and I just don't like it. And that's a call that I just don't like, especially when they're not consistent on it. And we'll get to consistency soon, Kyle.
Yes, we will.
I'm sure.
Because that's what we're going to agree on.
I just don't see the consistency there. Different refs will go different ways on that. And, like I was talking to a friend earlier, it stops the game, and especially when he was under the basket, he was driving it in, he got called for a foul, which
Who's he?
Should have been a clear path foul. Stephen Curry, my bad.
That's all good here.
I believe James Harden is the one that committed the foul. It should have been a clear path foul, but they did not call it a clear path foul, which it should have been. And, the controversy there is just, I feel like it's
you would like to see it eliminated completely, just the rule?
Yeah. I don't think that it's going to get revised and be changed any different. So, yes, I would like to see the rule get structured a lot different.
That's interesting, and I kind of agree with that because I don't like it because it's a way for them, it's a way for players to get the easy way out in desperation when they should score. I don't like that aspect of it. I think that I agree with your points on it. There's inconsistency when it comes to it because I think it could be called a lot more like it should have been tonight. And I think that that's bad as well, as far as rules go for the game right now. Just one in several others, and so I guess we will see if that ever comes about. But I am surely enough, as it irritates more and more fans and they start talking, I'm sure there will be some chatter about that possibly changing. So I guess we'll see with that. But another one that I know that we agree with, that would be the flagrant 1 and 2 fouls, even technical fouls. I'm going to say technical, flagrant 1 and 2, leading to an ejection. The rules have to be changed with this, Rhett. The calls are so inconsistent. I'm going to start with the technical foul. I'm getting so fed up with technical fouls alone being called the way that they are. It seems as if a little brush on the cheek is being called a technical foul, or a player yells one thing to the crowd, or one thing turns around to the opponent, and a technical foul's called.
Another example, on the Cavs and Hawks game, one of the players, I don't know which player, but he started tapping on his head because he thought he got fouled right after that. Joey Crawford teased him up right then.
Yeah, see, that's
Absolutely
unacceptable.
Ridiculous. All he was doing was tapping on his head, showing that he got fouled.
And that's taking away from the integrity of the game. That turns fans off. It frustrates them. I agree.
That is not technical foul worthy.
It's not.
And I know that Joey Crawford hands it out like it's candy.
He does. Where's the Snickers bars? I mean, it's ridiculous. I agree. I hate to see it.
Have a Snickers bar.
Exactly. I hate to see it. Technical fouls, they have way too much leeway, and they get so strict with it, literally, where the players can't say anything, react any certain way. And I think that takes away from the physicality of the game. It takes away from the chippiness of the game, and that's not good for it, and I hate to see it. And that leads me in to the flagrant 1 and 2 fouls, another rule that I think must change. It has to be altered, especially with the flagrant 2. You know, the rules are clearly defined, but here's one problem with them. It's never called consistently, either of them. And especially with the flagrant 2, it's kind of like the technical fouls. Players are getting tossed when they shouldn't be. We've seen it numerous times in these playoffs. And then we're seeing plays where a player gets tossed in one game for a flagrant 2, and then the same type of play happens in another game, and it's not a flagrant 2, and they're not tossed. It's ridiculous. Yes, it needs to be changed, doesn't it?
It sure does. And as we've seen in the playoffs already, that is something that has come up a few times.
There should have been an ejection tonight.
Yes.
I mean,
yes, it should have.
It's
last game against the Rockets and Warriors.
Yeah, the previous game. It seems like every game we continue to have to talk about these officials who keep messing up on these calls, and it's just so irritating from a fan base. I hope that Adam Silver addresses these rules in the off season and tries to change them. I really do.
And I have one more. That I'd like to talk about.
Please.
And that is, I know we've talked about it before, Kyle, and we both disagreed on it, but I have another. I've revised it, and that is the Hack-a-Shack.
The Hack-a-Shack.
So here is what I have come up with.
Well, I'd like to hear it, because
I think that it needs to be a rule implemented for this that makes it where you can't foul somebody off the ball intentionally for them to get sent to the line.
I
agree. It has to be ball in possession.
I agree. That's kind of like the intentional foul that we were talking about in the open court. Same thing. They just grab them to go. I mean, I agree with that. It happened tonight with Dwight Howard. They just grab him on the wing to implement the Hack-a-Howard. Exactly. I like that provision because we agree it's a strategy that is part of the game and shouldn't be taken away. Although I got to tell you, I believe that it is going to be removed based on what I've been reading and how Adam Silver feels about it. But if it's not, what most likely will happen that I have read is that there will be a penalty enforced if you do the Hack-a-Shack, meaning if you decide to do it, then I think what I was reading was then there is what was it? I honestly can't remember off the top of my head. There was a penalty that was enforced if you decide to do it. That's what was talked about. Like, okay, it'll be part of the game, but that player won't be able to come back in for a certain amount of time. There was an improvision, but regardless,
hockey?
yeah, exactly, penalty. That's exactly what it's like. So there would be a consequence for doing it. In other words, one way or the other, if they keep it, is what it sounds like is going to happen. But basically, actually, what I'm thinking, they were making it more like a flagrant. That's what it was, a flagrant. So if you or a technical. So if you do the Hack-a-Shack, okay, they're going to shoot the free throws and they're going to retain possession of the ball. That's what's going to happen. That's what I've read. So they get an extra possession out of it. So basically they're wanting you to not do it. Take that strategy out of there because teams will change their mind there because if they Hack-a-Shack again, well, they have the ball again. So, I mean, that kind of takes away the purpose of it. So that's kind of what's been there with it. I wanted to throw something else out here with you, Rhett. What do you think about this? This is something that's been thrown around, and I don't really disagree with this. I think it would kind of be nice to have one or two of these. What about adding a coach's challenge, like in the NFL, where plays that can't be reviewed earlier in the game because it's not within 2 minutes or it's not a certain foul at a certain time in the game, you can throw out that challenge flag because, let's face it, there are calls. I'm a firm believer throughout the whole course of a game that there are calls with a possession that could make or break the game. And I think that, especially if it's, 2:30 left in the game, it's not under 2 minutes, that's a big possession changer. So I kind of like the idea of coaches' challenges.
Prime example, the Rockets and Warriors game, Game 5. Dwight Howard shoves, who was it? He shoves Danny Green into, I think, James Harden.
Draymond Green?
Yes, right. Draymond Green. And they did not see it, and they called a 3-point foul on Draymond Green.
Exactly. Plays like that.
But I don't think there should be a challenge flag. There
Why?
needs to be something else than somebody throwing a challenge flag.
Throw the challenge flag.
We're not playing football.
That's interesting.
No. Somebody's going to run and slip on the freaking flag.
No. Okay, so there's not a flag, Rhett, if you want to be literal, but you get a challenge. So, hey, ref, I'm using my challenge.
Yeah, but then that's another thing that the refs have to keep track of. And, it would be interesting. I could see it happening. But I think it, with the way that Adam Silver is doing everything, he might as well change that too.
Yeah, that's very true. I mean, just something that's interesting that could happen.
So.
It's been talked about for a couple of years, and I think the NFL's done it right. I'd like to see it because I think that there are too many calls that the refs make inconsistently throughout a game that really change it. There was a play in the Rockets game tonight with the possession. They clearly got it wrong, and they couldn't challenge it. They couldn't review it. It's things like that I think that they should make sure they want to get it right. That's good for the game, and it's fair to the teams. So I'd like to see something like that implemented to get challenges in there. But I want to name off a few other ones here before we get off to the next segment. I just want you to tell me yay or nay, you agree or disagree with these that are being talked about that could happen, that a lot of fans would like to see. Eliminate the basket interference rule for rebounders, just like the Euro leagues. Once the ball hits the rim, it should be fair game. Yay or nay?
Nay.
Nay. Why?
If I'm getting this correctly, but what if it's hanging on the rim?
Basically that would be getting rid of it. So if it's on the rim, it's fair game. You can play it. It's part of the court.
No, that's dumb.
It's dumb. Okay. So, and I'm going to agree with you on that one. I think because that would change things. You just stick your hand up through the net, interfere, and basically for rebounders. Now, that's not saying for like a goaltending, but it kind of leads into that rule. It's the part 2 of goaltending because that's included in it. It's basket interference. If they touch the rim when it's still on the cylinder, or even a portion of the backboard, I believe that's what that would entail. But no, I agree. I think that has to be there because that can change a shot. Okay, how about add another ref to the floor to help cover the game?
No.
Why?
So I think 3 is just plenty.
Okay, I'm going to disagree with you.
It's not that big. It's not that big.
I'm going to say I agree with this.
There's going to be too many refs on the court overstepping their boundaries.
I like adding another ref.
Officiator.
Yeah.
As a fellow officiator, I don't see the need.
I think the more the merrier. They get enough calls wrong as it is. I think more consistency would help. Another pair of eyes.
Limit. Joey Crawford.
Yeah.
Get him to retire and they'll have a fresh pair of eyes.
That's a good point. Another pair of eyes I think would be helpful though. So we'll disagree on that one. Now this is interesting. Now we talked about this. Change the way lottery picks are assigned so that teams are given ping pong balls for each game.
Exactly.
You like the idea of ping pong balls because you think there's something behind closed doors.
I think they were back there rigging it.
Wow. There you go. That would be interesting. How about this one? And I'll agree with you. I'll agree with you on that. I like the old tradition of the lottery balls. That's interesting, and everybody gets to see it. So there's no question. How about eliminate divisions and just have 2 conferences and try to balance out these schedules?
I like it.
He likes it. I don't. I'm a traditionalist. How about implement a sudden death tournament for the 8th seed in both conferences?
Sudden death tournament as in?
Sudden death for the 8th seeds.
8th seed, so somebody doesn't actually have it locked in if they're...
That's right.
No, that's stupid.
All right, I agree with you on that. I'm gonna say that no. Why have to pick on the 8th seed? Why not the 5th seed? I agree with that one. That's interesting. How about eliminate the individual max salary so that the super team, quote, is incredibly rare? No way LeBron shares the spotlight with Wade and Bosch if he could make $40 million a year in salary on his own. So what do you think about the individual max salary?
Yeah, I like that.
I agree with you. I think that would make it a little more fair across the boards. Okay, how about this? 1 superstar players get paid as much as they're worth. Old school rivalries are back, which make the league more entertaining. Old school rivalries. Knicks Pacers, we love this deal. So players get paid as much as they're worth. They're back, and you have that individual max salary. I like it. How about reduce the minimum salary to something around $500,000? Then let teams carry 18 to 20 players on the roster. This way they can afford to invest in project players and set roster space aside for them.
You know, I think I could see that because it's not my money that's hurting.
Yeah. Hey, that's a good point. I'm going to agree with that one, too. I kind of like that idea. How about this? Eliminate the 10-day contract. It's a holdover from from the era when there wasn't an international market for basketball talent. In today's world, the most talented players who can't get an NBA deal go to Europe or Asia. They don't hang around waiting for a 10-day contract to try out. I agree with this. I don't really like the 10-day contracts.
I disagree.
Wow. Why?
I disagree because I've seen it many times this year that they've gotten 10-day contracts, and that's just another way for when an injury happens, they can bring that person in for 10 days. And just like the Indiana Pacers brought in, oh my, what was his name? Kyle, I'm blanking here.
Oh,
They
AJ
brought him in,
Price.
AJ Price, yes. He did great. And, I think it's a great way for the player to make some cash and get it renewed. I mean, I think it's just a good thing that they have for that.
All right, agree to disagree, no problem. How about this? If a player is waived after the trade deadline and not claimed off the waiver wire, he should be ineligible for the current season. Allowing waived or bought out players to latch on with a contender just before the playoffs only benefits the top seeded teams. I
Yeah,
agree with this.
yeah.
I like this idea.
That's kind of like what Ray Allen was going to do, right?
Yes.
Yes. That's what I was thinking.
I like that idea. I think it makes it more fair, and it kind of it makes it basically
Got to
just
be in
makes
for
it
the
more
long
fair
haul.
across the board. Exactly. Not a last second deal. How
Yeah.
about rookie scale contracts should be shortened from 4 years to 2 years so that teams have to start paying full market value for young players right away, which again helps to improve parity. What do you think about that?
No.
Why?
I like the 2 year because, I mean, right there, they're rookies. It's a tradition. They get paid a max salary for a rookie contract, and they might not be able to pan out. I mean, I think that there's just too much into it that can go wrong for a 4 year contract instead of a 2 year contract when you haven't had them play in an NBA experience game.
Right, and that's kind of a traditional thing too. I kind of like the tradition of it, so I'm going to agree with you on that. How about this? Instead of fouling out, the team with a player who has 6 or more fouls should give up a possession, shooting foul or not. This would encourage coaches to keep players in longer, raising the level of talent on the floor for the full 48 minutes. Additionally, attacking the basket would be even more important than it is now, and it's very important now. So what do you think about that? Instead of fouling out, the team with a player who has 6 or more fouls should give up a possession.
Don't like it.
Why?
The tradition of the game, and I just don't like that.
That's
that
too
takes
different.
out the level. It takes out
It changes that strategy. It changes the rule in general.
yes. I mean that makes it where people can just foul and be careless with it, and I think that them getting penalized by sitting out disqualified is the right penalty.
Yeah.
Now, if you guys want to add one more foul or something to make it 7 fouls, then that's just fine and dandy.
I agree with that. I agree with that. I will agree with you. I'm a traditional guy. I'm gonna stick with the tradition there. How about eliminate the charging penalty and increase the size of the current charge block circle? This will make it easier for offensive players to attack while simultaneously making it easier for teams to defend the rim. It also eliminates one of the most contentious calls in the game, which is very inconsistent. What do you think about getting rid of that circle?
And creating it where where the foul is not there as much.
Basically, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, I agree with that. That I think that there's way too much inconsistency when it gets chaotic down there in the lane. And as far as the charging penalty goes, I don't agree with eliminating the charging penalty as a whole because that'll completely change the game. That completely gives the offense the advantage, and they can just shove off. And okay, so what is it going to be a technical? Is it going to be a flagrant? Flagrant 2? That create more problems than there is. But I do think the charging penalty needs to be altered because that is inconsistent. Players, they call it inconsistent all the time. Did the offense create the contact? Did they not? Was the defense set? It's called so inconsistent inconsistently. I think there needs to be some change there. It's crazy. But what do you think about this? Do you think that all the timeouts at the end of the games needs to change? Should they reduce the number of timeouts that can be called at that time?
No, the timeouts and what amount of time?
And the end of the games, basically. So if you save up all your timeouts for the end and then it extends the game for 20 minutes, do you think that should be okay? You only get a certain amount per quarter, per half.
No, I mean you're saving your timeouts. I mean, I don't think that
strategy, just like NFL
strategy. I mean, no, I think that's a bad idea.
I can agree with you. I dig it. You know, I like tradition. So we'll leave that there, and we'll kind of transition into the next segment, Rhett. And this will be very interesting. I'm kind of curious to see what you have to say about this. Do you think rings alone define a player's NBA career legacy? Yes or no?
Oh boy, did we have this conversation the other day or what?
It will be great, buddy.
All right.
We did. We brushed the surface here. Now I want to hear what you have to say. Don't disrespect Reggie Miller now. What do you have to say?
Would you like to touch on this first?
No, I asked you. I want your yes or no.
I think it does.
Wow.
It does.
Please,
to a certain extent.
Okay, so it doesn't only define
It does not only define.
Okay.
Because I can tell you right now, Reggie Miller had a fantastic career by not having a ring, but it does surely helps. I mean,
surely helps.
You have Charles Barkley that never got a ring, Steve Nash, Reggie Miller, and probably going to be Carmelo Anthony.
Wow. But, he went there.
I did. But those types of players that they can go and not have a ring, but they Hall of Famers. I mean, Steve Nash is not yet, but more than likely he's going to be a Hall of Famer.
He is. Well, I'll tell you this. I don't agree with you because it sounds like you're putting so much more emphasis on the ring. But I agree in the aspect that it is not the only thing that defines a player's NBA legacy in their career. Because of our very own Reggie Miller, baby, Hall of Famer, well-deserved. He is, this would be another topic for another discussion for another day, but where would he rank all time? Without a ring, I'm telling you right now, I would put him in my top 20 of all-time greatest players, and he didn't win an NBA title. That just goes to show how much of a team player he was and how much he meant. And it also, here's the other thing with my reasoning. Because, you're dealing with the eras of the players, and it was so difficult back then to win consistently. That was so impressive. That's what was so impressive about Michael Jordan. But he had so much talent around him that helped. But the thing, that's what impresses me is talent. You have to look at the talent. The teams that Reggie Miller was on don't even compare to the teams that Michael Jordan was on. Right? And that, to me, goes to show how much of a load Reggie carried, and he stayed his whole career there. And that's so important to me in where, okay, he's the second all-time leading three-point shooter. That to me, so he had, so many points in his career. He had other great statistical categories. He got them to an NBA title. That's important to me alone. He got not only, and you have to look at the team that he went up against, the dynasty of the Lakers, but the fact that every year he was there, every year in the playoffs competing, and keep in mind the competition, it was crazy in the 90s. So that to me is important. And I just want to mention, I want to read off some more players that have never won a ring that are in most people's top 20 of all-time greatest players. You mentioned a couple of them already. Karl Malone, John Stockton, Charles Barkley, Patrick Ewing, Reggie, Steve Nash, Allen Iverson, Dominique Wilkins, Pete Maravich, George Gervin, Kevin Durant, Vince Carter, Tracy McGrady, Chris Paul, Dikembe Mutombo. The list goes on and on. These are players that I would have in the top 20 of all-time greatest players. By position, probably top 3 when you break some of those players down. And they have never won an NBA title. It just goes to show that there's more than just winning the NBA title. Yes, it is the most important thing. It's the ultimate goal. That's what
you're there for.
You're playing for that, but you're also playing for the love of the game, and it's your career.
It's your job.
Right.
Your job is to take you to the NBA championship.
But you can't always accomplish that. That's the thing.
That right there stands you out from those people that did not. Especially if you're the leader of the team, like Michael Jordan.
Leader of the team.
That's what makes him stand out from everybody else, especially those people that did not get the rings. He led his team 6 championships. So he's in. I feel like those people are in different categories.
But see, the difference in my mind is I think people get too caught up on rings alone because, again, it's their career. It's their job, but they play because they love the game.
The guy that his Colts have one Super Bowl ring.
Absolutely. And like I said on that show when we were debating, I'm a proud fan and of a team that consistently
no wonder
is successful.
He's not a fan of rings.
No, that is not it at all.
Goodness.
It's the fact that, okay, one, hey, that's great. Another one's going to come this next year. But the thing is, that's not the most important thing in my eyes. Now, players will tell you that that's their ultimate goal, sure, but they'll also tell you that they play because they love the game and it's their career, just as we will go to work for a career.
Are they going to make it their living, though, if they don't get paid?
They do make it their living. They get paid. Not everyone wins a ring.
I mean, obviously, they love the game because they're making millions.
Exactly, and most of them aren't winning titles.
Yeah,
so that's my
that
point.
Right there makes them stand out from the ones that have the titles.
Maybe it makes them stand out, but it doesn't just define their legacy.
Define their legacy.
Because I would be curious to look at a list of players. I'll give one example right now. Ray Allen has won multiple titles. He's not better than Reggie Miller. I wouldn't put him as better than Reggie Miller, but he's won 3 or 4 more titles.
He's been tossed around like a rag doll.
That's a point. That's my point. Yes, did he pass him on the all-time three-pointers made? Yes. Does he have rings? Yes. Did he contribute more to a team than Reggie Miller did? No. Was he more clutch? I mean, you could argue it. He's clutch. He is. But I'm very biased toward Reggie. That's my point. You have that comparison. Okay, so how much did the rings matter in that aspect? You just agreed that Reggie Miller, you would say, was more successful, was better than Ray Allen, yet he had 3 or 4 more rings than him. So that's the point that I'm making. It's not just about the rings.
Superstar level. Now, like...
Reggie's a superstar.
Yes, but I don't consider Ray Allen a superstar, especially at his age. So, what I'm saying is, for that superstar, if you want tagged as a superstar, and you don't have a ring, or never have a ring, you're not going to stand out from those people that have a ring, that are the superstars. That's what I'm trying to point out.
Yeah, I don't like I said, I don't necessarily disagree with that, because obviously it goes to show what you did for that team and led that as a superstar. And so yeah, you'll stand out more, but from an aspect of let's the other key thing in it is it's not just you who won that ring. It's a team. It's a team who won. And that's why when you can compare, like you want to talk about, okay, successful NBA legacy, great players, you want to get into the one-on-one matchups, who could win at this, because then you really break it down. And that's why, it's a team ordeal. That's why I look at the team aspect of it. Again, look at the players who won rings. They had dynasties with some of the top 5. You look at the Lakers with Magic Johnson, Kareem, and them. They got their rings. Three of the players on those teams are the top 5 all greatest players of all time. So I mean, you have that team concept of that. Okay, the team helped you get that ring. What if it was the other way around? What if you didn't get as lucky as maybe Reggie Miller, who didn't have all of that talent around him and truly led the team? That's what I'm saying. I value that. So that's why it's not all about rings to me, clearly, because my favorite player of all time is a Hall of Famer and who I would put in my top 20 of greatest players. We just talked about it a couple weeks ago. I would put Reggie Miller right behind Kobe Bryant and Michael Jordan for the greatest shooting guards of all time. What do you think?
That's bold. But, I could see right around that range. But, I think we are on the same direction there, Kyle.
It's high up there, and that's my point. I just fully believe that it is so important that you look at what else they do for the team, because that also, it's not just rings that defines an NBA career legacy, just like what you do in your job.
I think for superstars it is.
It's
that is
about
one thing that really stands out for them.
It stands out, but it's not the only thing.
Especially now for people that are not superstars, that don't have that tag of a superstar, that I don't whoop-de-frickin' do. They have a ring. Nobody really cares. I mean, Ray Allen, he has multiple rings. I could care less.
We could, because we're Pacers fans. A lot of people would disagree with us and really would love to start a debate. But the point is that I firmly believe that an NBA player's career legacy is defined by much more than just the ring. There's a lot that encompasses into it, including what kind of character they hold. That's important to me too, as a fan. Character is important to me, and character off the court is important. And that's why I say all around, just like us in our careers in everyday life. That's what defines a legacy. And
I'm
that,
not just a superhero here. I'm a superhero everywhere else.
That's a good one. He's got jokes. But it is interesting to see. I do want to mention this. LeBron, a couple years ago, chimed in and he said that rings alone don't define a player's career.
Coming from a guy that didn't have a ring.
Yeah.
Forever.
Right. Exactly. But Michael Jordan, when he kind of chimed in too, he picked Kobe over LeBron in an interview. Because of the 5-1 title disparity at the time 2 years ago, that was a big thing. But that's what's interesting about it. But LeBron, he said at the end of the day, rings don't always define someone's career. If that was the case, then I would sit up here and say I would take Celtics legend Bill Russell over Michael Jordan. I wouldn't take Russell over Jordan. Russell has 11 rings. Jordan has 6. So, I don't know, Robert Horry over Kobe Bryant. I wouldn't do that. It all comes down to opinion. Multiple rings. Again, we were talking about the players, greatest of all time. Reggie Miller, that don't. So it's the situation that you're in a lot of times, the team that you're on, and timing. And that is key to me. So I found that interesting that LeBron James said that. So I don't know, Rhett. It sounds like we're pretty much on the same page, but it sounds like you're putting a little bit more emphasis than I am in the importance of the NBA ring when it comes to defining
I sure am.
their legacy.
We're there, but we're just a little far apart.
And that's okay.
Because I'm right.
Hey, yeah. That's a good one, but that's where we stand with that. So we'll move on to the next segment. Right? Let's rank the top 5 least favorite Pacers of all time. I'm curious to see who you have on this list. I have a feeling we might have I know we're going to have the same least favorite player. I can tell you that right now. But
I can tell you that right now too.
The other ones I'm not quite sure of. So I want to start with you. Give me your number 5 least favorite player, and just maybe say why.
Ron Artest.
Is number 5 on the list?
Oh, sorry.
He blew it.
Goodness, I was
He
thinking of
spoiled
number 5.
it.
Oh, I spoiled it. Oh, crap. Oh, my goodness.
Well, we might as well start from the top. All right, Rhett, no. Give me your number 5. It's not the same. You count down always. Who is your number 5 least favorite player?
Stephen Jackson.
Steven Jackson.
Stephen
Why?
Jackson. Because he first of all, the guy's been passed around, and he was back when the Malice of the Palace. He's a cocky guy. He was there when it was starting to become the trashy team,
The thug team.
yes,
The label.
and I just couldn't stand the guy. Don't like him.
Hey, you know what? We'll get there, but we might have more in common than I thought we did. All right. So your number 5 is Steven Jackson. My number 5 is Evan Turner. Evan Turner, who came in last year for not even a full year, is my 5th least favorite Pacer of all time. Here's why. He was selfish, he was overrated, and he was injured all the time, and I thought he was a crybaby. And I did not think that he fit well here, and it just goes to show you, in not even a year, and out. Just like that. And I hate that. And I think that was a terrible move. I did not like it. I really didn't like it from the beginning, because though he was decent in leading the Sixers, I didn't think he was going to fit in well here, and I did not like the way he carried himself. I didn't like that. He's my 5th least favorite Pacer of all time, Rhett. Give me your number 4.
We're close. He is my number 4.
Wow.
Yes. So, I agree. I was actually for him until I heard, after we got him, all the trouble that he stirred up when he was at Philly. He was not a good teammate.
Good point. And he wasn't. And players on the Pacers had problems with him as well. Team chemistry.
Yes, especially Lance Stevenson. Did not mix well.
Good old Lance.
So, Sir Lance, a lot love him.
Got to have a segment on just Lance.
I know, I love him. So, he was not a good
spoiler
teammate.
for next week. He wasn't a good teammate.
Yeah, it was not a good teammate. So, I think that does not bode well when you're a Pacers. That's when they fell apart, and that's what cost us the season.
I agree, and isn't that something? He was supposed to be someone who really turned us around, that was going to really help.
Yeah.
But he didn't, and in fact blew several games.
I liked Lavoy Allen, though.
Yes.
So that right there.
That was a good thing for sure. All right, well, my number 4, Rhett, Gerald Green. I don't know if this surprises you or not.
It's a shocker.
But Gerald Green signed with us in 2012. He was with us for 1 year.
Oh,
and this is the reason, not because of what he's become now. This is my least favorite Pacer.
He's salty, people. He's salty.
What I don't like is that he came in for 1 year, and he, a lot like Evan Turner, was an absolute selfish player who either would hit a shot or he wouldn't, and then he would pout about it, and he would not play defense. I thought that he was a player who came in, and I don't think he represented the Pacers at all like he should have. and I didn't like that. I don't like how he came in. I don't like how he was so he was so inconsistent, and he was selfish, and there were some team chemistry issues too. He had an attitude problem. I didn't like it, and I didn't want that, and I don't think it was good for the Indiana Pacers. And for me, that's why he's my fourth least favorite Pacers of all time. He didn't represent us well. Rhett, who's your number 3?
Sam Young.
Sam Young. Oh, good old Sam.
Stand the guy. Cannot stand the guy. Thought he was awful for the Indiana Pacers. I would have rather have pulled somebody from the D-League or, heck, even a high school basketball game.
Sam Young.
Could not stand the guy. Thought he was an awful player and still think he's an awful player. I don't even think he's in the NBA anymore. And he shouldn't be.
Well, I remember you talking about him at multiple Pacers games. Didn't play much, but yeah, I don't agree with you on that. Poor Sam, but
oh gosh,
I guess I can understand where you're coming from. Disrespectful. All right, so that
from a guy that disrespected Gerald Green.
That's number. You got to be kidding! If he's not on your list, I want to hear why. I'm gonna have just out the top 5, but I'll go to my number 3, and that's Steven Jackson. I too, much like you, I had him higher on my list. I couldn't stand the guy. He was with us from 04 to 07, right at the end of Reggie's career, and he was in the middle of the labeled thug team, and he was one of the reasons why. And it irritated me, and quite honestly, it turned me away from the Pacers a little bit, much like it did a lot of Pacers fans. I couldn't stand his character, the way he carried himself. That includes off the court. Obviously, you had the Pacers and Pistons brawl, and he was right in the thick of that. But I think that he was a selfish player. I think that there was team chemistry issues, and I don't like how he came in right at the end of Reggie's career, tried to steal the spotlight, that sort of a thing. He definitely is my third least favorite Pacer of all time. Really just did not represent that Pacers uniform well in this franchise, and that was a big turnoff for me, and that's why he's my number 3. What about you, Rhett? Your number 2. We're getting down to crunch time.
Let's see. Let's see if this rings a bell here. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Are you sure you're ready?
I can tell you right now. Hit it. I'm about to explode. Give it to me, baby.
You're about to explode. All right, well, I'm going to give it to you. On the count of 3.
Stop stalling.
Markieff Daniels. I cannot stand that guy.
Markieff Daniels?
Yes.
Why?
I'm probably butchering his first name, like I do every name.
You definitely are.
I don't like the guy. Did not like the guy. Watching him play anywhere just frustrates me. I believe he plays for the Milwaukee Bucks right now.
That sounds right.
I'm not sure, but I think he has a thuggish attitude, and I feel like he's an awful player, in my opinion. I feel like he's a player that needs to go play with the Detroit Pistons.
Wow.
And stay the heck off the Indiana Pacers.
Well, tell it like it is, Rhett.
And,
off the radar.
He was 2006, 2009, so he was in that area with the Indiana Pacers at about 2006-ish. That was not the best team. So 2009, that's starting to knock on the door of Indiana Pacers starting to come around.
That we know and love. We know and love because, let's face it, right after with Steven Jackson left, it was Danny Granger leading this team and trying to turn the Pacers franchise around. Boy, I'd have him on my top 10 list, I'll tell you what. But that's just one of those things where you surprised me because that is off the radar. But you know what? I do remember him. He's one of those players with that short 3-year stint in wasn't a very good one, and it doesn't sit well with you when you have a Pacer in the uniform and doesn't represent it well.
Yeah, he just looks trashy too. I don't like it. I don't like it.
Well, how about that? Number 2.
Looks like a Lil Wayne.
Daniels. Well, I'm going to tell you who my number 2 is. His name's Al Harrington. I couldn't stand Al Harrington, and it was almost a toss-up with Steven Jackson, but he was a great player. Let's make no mistake, just like Steven Jackson was. I mean, they were good players for us in their prime, and it's just the way they carry themselves is a big reason why. From 98 to 04, Al Harrington was with us. Al Harrington, again, had a thug-like attitude, and to me, the selfishness of him is what really bothered me. What was that?
I said you love him.
No, I don't.
16 seasons in the NBA, come on.
I did not love him, especially in the Pacers uniform. I did not like the way that he carried himself. I thought he had that thuggish attitude. He bought into that type of a team that we had. I think that the team chemistry was a terrible issue.
The great thing is he played twice for him.
Yeah, I know. It's
98 through.
He came back in 06 for a year. Yeah, exactly. So he came back, and it was another disaster. He's the same player. I couldn't stand it. Number 2 on my list, simply for the way he carried himself. I couldn't take it. I didn't like it.
Well, he's retired now, so you can now
blemish.
Take a deep breath.
No, I can't because he's still historically on the Pacers team, Rhett. It's embedded and it's not good.
I think we need to get a nice little thing up on the Pacers wall of him with his jersey. Maybe we should retire it.
I disagree because saying something like that is like saying this next guy that we're going to mention is our number 1 of having a poster of him. The only poster of him I'd have is throwing darts at it. That's
for my cat.
It's no good. It's no good. Rhett,
for my cat.
Who is your number 1? I think it should be no surprise.
Since I spoiled it.
You did.
Ron Artest.
AKA Meta World Peace. We can speak at the same time here because we have the same number 1.
Too sexy for my cat. He did say that in an interview.
Along with many other weird, messed up sayings. I think it goes without saying
he should be admitted.
Yeah, good point. It also goes without saying that he absolutely not only is our least favorite player in Pacers history, but he was the most embarrassing player in Pacers history. Especially with him, for me, by the way he carried himself, he was also thug-like and just fit in with that team, especially with the brawl and that whole ordeal. But then you had a guy who really went cuckoo for Cocoa Puffs and just went off on a tangent. I mean, changes his name to Meta World Peace. Are you kidding me? The guy was a little whoop whoop, little crazy.
He gave me a few good laughs though. I mean, somebody asked him on a train once, "Why did you lose that game?" And he had to have the smart aleck comment of, "Because they scored more points than us."
It's typical Ron Artest. He was a selfish player. He was also a dirty player. He still has been a dirty player off the Indiana Pacers team. And that I just don't respect that. It's the one guy that I wish was never in an Indiana Pacers uniform because he really gives a bad name to the Pacers' reputation. Ron Artest, you might as well just have it scribbled out whenever it shows all of the Pacers players, and up on the Jumbotron when it goes and shows all the players and it flashes Ron Artest really quick. Please just take it out. Do us one quick solid. Take it out, right, Rhett?
I'm kidding. I don't like him. I do not like him, but he has gave me a couple good laughs. I cannot lie.
Well, at the very least, he ought to humor us, right?
I'm kidding.
I mean, jeez.
I'm kidding. At least he doesn't play in the NBA anymore. That's a plus.
Hey, that's very true. That's very true.
He's playing overseas now.
Yes, good. We won't get to see him. Perfect. I want to mention two players that just missed my top 5 list. I want to see if they were anywhere near your top 5. Jeff Pendergraph and Brandon Rush. What do you think about those two players that just missed my top 5?
I wasn't. I did not really have a problem with Jeff.
Oh, you lying
Pendergraph.
sack of marbles. Just
I
like
did
Gerald Green.
He kind of. I mean, I thought he came out. He got the team hyped up. You not remember that, Kyle? When he was on the team, not only was he a good player on the bench, not just not playing wise, but he got the team hyped up. He was in that. He was in the game before the game started, getting the team riled up. He's what pumped the team up. He not only was, I mean, he did not play because, obviously he was not good enough, but I think that sitting on the bench, getting his teammates pumped up to go out there and play, he was a great teammate in that aspect of it, and that's where you're freaking wrong. And I'm going to call you out on it, Kyle.
Well,
That
you
is
go
just
ahead.
Bull crap. Now, Brandon Rush, I can agree, but Jeff Pendergraph,
Forget about him.
That is a disrespectful comment.
Number 6 on my
because
list.
Oh my goodness. That's
Hence,
just,
the man's still not with us, Rhett. He wasn't a loyal Pacer.
Well, I'm sorry.
That he wasn't good and he shouldn't have.
But did he not
didn't
get the
care
team pumped
himself.
up?
You know what? Tyler
Right,
Hansbrough
Tyler
got the
Hansbrough,
team
right?
pumped up too, and I loved him.
Yeah. He got the team bumped up, and guess what? Guess where he went?
To Toronto.
Bye-bye. Yes.
I know, but let's face it, Tyler Hansbrough, Jeff Pendergraph, not the same players, right? I can't stand them. I couldn't stand Jeff Pendergraph, all right? And I remember going to the games with you and being
He didn't play very
there
often.
and watching him shoot, and every time, what are you doing, Jeff Pendergraph? Taking that jump shot from the
Hey,
elbow.
I got excited. I remember getting excited when he came in and slammed it down one game.
His one dunk that he would give us. Let's face it, Rhett.
He always had a smile on his face.
He
And
had a
that
smile
was-
on his face at times. Other times, he was just selfish.
No,
He was
what are you
lazy.
Oh my gosh, Kyle, oh my, we better cut it off before this turns into a debate.
Well,
Oh,
we can't
boy.
cut it off before we get into the last segment, Rhett, and talk
Oh, my
about the.
gosh.
We gotta talk about the fan base here a little bit before we finish it up. You know
Smack.
what? I'm not
You're
mad.
You're lucky we are far away right now.
You know what? You're lucky we're far away. That's besides
Probably.
the point.
Probably.
Toss you like a sack of potatoes.
You taking a shot at my weight?
Yes,
Are you?
I am.
Yes, great.
Eat a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. All right. We have to move on to the final segment, Rhett, and this will kind of be good to transition into the Pacers this next season with the fan base, Rhett. I want to know, what do you think of our fan base as it stands? And you can kind of talk about it from the standpoint of how do you think they stuck with us as we struggled this year. But what do you think of our fan base?
I can tell you right now from the job that I have recently acquired
And what is that?
that it's sales at concerts and Bankers Life Fieldhouse events.
It's you, big dog. All right.
Yes. So, from what they have told me, the Indiana Pacers events have not hit the projected attendance for each game. So they are below what they are expected to have, in which they are not selling out as much. So that, I think attendance definitely needs to be raised, and people need to start coming to the games. It's not very expensive to go to the games. If you want to sit in the balcony, get you a ticket for $10. Come on.
I'm going to blow your mind, Rhett. I agree with you to a certain extent that I think there needs to be improvement with more people coming to the games. I don't think it's the loyal fans. Let me tell you, I think that our fan base is reestablished with this new core team that we have. Beyond the thug teams that we had with Steven Jackson and Al Harrington, Jamal Tinsley, we're past that fan base where fans were turned away. We have an established fan base of loyal fans. Here's why I think people are not coming to the games. We have a lot of bandwagoner fans now because we had ever since we've improved each year, minus this last year, and the rivalry with the Miami Heat and renewing rivalries with the Bulls and Knicks, etc., improving, getting to the Eastern Conference Finals 2 years in a row, almost getting over the hump, got the fan base really excited, and they were coming. But you know what? There were also a lot of bandwagoners, and these are the ones who are not showing up at the games now. And you know what? They're the same ones who are going to show up when we're back in the playoffs, in the finals. And I got to tell you, Red, I don't like it. I do not like bandwagoners because I don't like unloyal fans. I don't like fans that don't know what they're talking about. And I feel like bandwagoners are those type of fans. You know what I'm talking about. We sit near plenty of them.
Remember when I called out a guy at the Indiana Pacers game when he was just talking crap about one of the players and he really just had no clue, and it just ticked me off and I had to say something to the guy?
Yes.
You remember that?
I do. Because the thing about bandwagoners is they don't know. They'll buy their little merchandise. They'll act like they've known the team for 7 years, and they can tell you every player. But they don't. They say stupid things because they don't know the game. They've just hopped on the bandwagon, and those are the most annoying fans. I agree it's good in the standpoint of it fills the place up, sure. It also, increases ticket sales, obviously good things, but at the same time, from our perspective of fans, it's also annoying. And when they're not there to support us when we're down, goes to show how much of a fan they are with no loyalty. It bothers me to death. I can
tell you what, me and you have walked out of the Indiana Pacers arena more times disappointed than more than a lot of the Pacers fans bandwagoners would ever go to.
I know. We sit there in Arby's because that's a tradition that we have, is to go to Arby's after the game, and we've had our fair share of disappointments. But you know what? Those Arby's roast beef sandwiches and curly fries are not disappointing.
Yes.
But
they cheer us up.
They do.
And if you fill out the survey, you get a free milkshake.
And that's great. Or a dessert. And that's always great, too. But the thing is, I can't stand bandwagoners. I think that's part of the problem with our fan base right now. I think it was the problem with the attendance this year with Paul George out. But I also was pretty impressed. I think that our loyal fan base did a good job sticking with this team. We saw it when Paul George returned. The love that our fan base, it's been built in Indianapolis. The fan base has been built and established, the loyal fan base especially. Bandwagoners, that's a work in progress, but there's also other aspects that play into getting those bandwagoners out to the games and to stick around. You have to have good marketing. You need to have good promotions at the games. Keep them enticed. Keep the ticket prices low. All of these things will help in fan attendance, but, have good halftime performances. These sort of things, these giveaways, section prizes, people like that stuff, and that helps keep them there, and it'll help them grow with the fan base and be established. But
exactly. I can tell you right now that I cannot stand talking to a bandwagoner fan. It just irritates me, even if it's not even for the Indiana Patriots. If it's for any other team, it irritates me.
Right, and I think
tell you right now, I probably know more about that other team that you're rooting for right now than they do.
Exactly, and I think that we as the Pacers, that we don't get respect in the NBA because I think that we have a great fan base, and they come out in the playoffs, phenomenal showings. The past years, drove the ratings and were the talk of the NBA. But you know what? They don't ever cover us outside of the playoffs, it seems. We don't get the regular season games that we deserve. There's plenty of regular season games where there's not a lot of fans in those stands of other teams, but yet they're still covering them. That also bothers me. But I think that it's just something the Pacers will have to overcome. You know what? They see certain games and they're like, wow, no one's there. Well, they're playing the Detroit Pistons. You know, just giving an example of a game in the regular season that may not be as entertaining. That's the thing. You have to make them more meaningful because every game counts, but you need to make a game where if you're two teams with struggling records, make it exciting for the fans to come out to just in case you lose or whatever. But I don't like that aspect of the bandwagoners, but you know what? I think that our fan base did a good job sticking with us for the most part this year. I'm about to read off a couple statistics to you that might surprise you, that shows you just how loyal our fan base was and how tickets actually did sell quite a bit. But the thing is, the upcoming year, I think, will be key. I think our fans will be back. I think that a lot will have to do with, especially from the bandwagoners aspect. Okay, is Paul George back in his healthy self? What do we do in the draft? What do we do in the offseason as far as free agents? Is Roy Hibbert gone? Because Area 55 is gone. You broke that to me.
Yes, I did. It's disembarked.
There's a lot of change. It's crazy. Only the G2 zone remains.
I know. Now, once we get Kevin Love, we can have the Love Zone.
It won't happen, but that's very true. The Love corner. You never know. The thing is, the Pacers fans will be back supporting this team next year. I firmly believe it. But will they be during the regular season? Will the bandwagoners finally come to games and stop only showing up for the playoffs? Be a true loyal fan. That's kind of the key to me. But listen to this, Rhett. This past year, the Indiana Pacers fans rank among the NBA's best. This ranking came from Forbes. This international business publication ranked Pacers fans the 7th best in the NBA, tied with the Dallas Mavericks. This is what they considered in this ranking: hometown crowd reach, television ratings, attendance, and merchandise sales. The Pacers were 7th, tied with the Dallas Mavericks. What do you think about that? Does that shock you?
It does. I mean...
And keep in mind, this is without Paul George at the time, and George Hill being injured and all.
Yes, and it does surprise me. But from what I was saying was they're projected sales for tickets was down from what they had projected, not what was actually there.
Right.
But just like they're projected.
And that happens, but I'm really glad to see that they account for these other factors. And you know what that goes to show me? That goes to show me that there is that established hometown crowd fan base for the Pacers. It is established with this core team, and I love that. But
you have bandwagoners everywhere you go, and I'm not going to lie, I don't like them, but it sure does make the place rumble.
It does. It does. It helps to have more fans there. Rumble. It really does.
I just don't like the incompetence of them.
Here's the 6th ahead of the Pacers. Let's see if this surprises you. Number 1, our hated rivals, the Miami Heat. Number 2, the Oklahoma City Thunder. You're going to be really shocked when you find who's not even in the top 10. Number 3, the San Antonio Spurs.
That one shocked me.
Number 4, Chicago Bulls.
That one didn't.
Number 5, Los Angeles Lakers.
That doesn't.
Number 6, the Boston Celtics. Right behind us, the Portland Trailblazers and the Los Angeles Clippers. Can you believe the one team that is not on that list?
Cleveland?
How about the Warriors?
Oh, yeah, that one too. Well,
I would have guessed they were number 1.
They might have a smaller arena than everybody else.
Well, their hometown crowd reach probably
their court is in Oakland.
But I feel like that will change on next year's ratings, because I'll tell you right now, certainly their television ratings have gone up. Their attendance is always sold out.
Yeah.
That's crazy to me. Merchandise sales have to be throughout the roof with Steph Curry's jersey alone. And hometown crowd reach, that's a big Bay Area. I would be shocked if next year they aren't number one.
They are building their new arena, right? Am I correct?
I'm not positive about that. You might be breaking some new news to me here. But
yeah, I kind of think they are. So I don't think it's going to be done next year, but I think the following season.
And that's very interesting. And this just goes to show you. So it's all about those other factors that were included. We'll see if it changes for next year. But here is where, just on attendance alone, this is what's going to hit. And it goes to show the other factors is where the Pacers hit strong in. Because take a guess at where the Pacers ranked on the NBA attendance report this past year. Take a guess, Rhett.
Oh, you wanted me to guess?
That's right.
Oh, I was sitting there waiting for it.
Do.
For the whole NBA?
No, for the Pacers. Guess where they
for the
ranked
Pacers.
on the attendance report.
Let's see here. Out of the 30 teams, I would say...
If you get it right, I'm buying you a hamburger.
Wow,
next time you're
cheap
here.
Son of a gun.
That's right.
99 cents. Don't splurge.
I didn't say from where.
That's all right. 8?
Oh, good. I get to save some money. 22nd.
Holy crap.
22nd. The Pacers averaged 16,864 fans.
Wow, I guess I gave him too much.
You did give them a little bit much. That
Holy crap.
is toward the bottom, and that is an issue
But
to
you
me.
said I was going to be surprised.
Aren't you surprised?
You sounded happy about it.
No, aren't you surprised? Right? Basically, to me,
No, I'm not really surprised. That's why I guessed high. I thought you were happy about it.
basically to me, what that does is that tells me the bandwagoners were not showing up to the games. That's what happened when they found out that Paul George was out, Lance Stevenson gone. I think it changed some things for those certain fans, and so I think that that clearly, when you look at the attendance, that's crazy. The Warriors do make the top 10 for attendance. They're number 7 on the list with 19,596 average. So that's crazy. The Bulls are number 1. And the Cavs are number 2. So those don't surprise me there. I certainly knew the Warriors had to be up there on attendance as far as that goes. But those other factors, they didn't even make the top 10. But Pacers need to focus on more marketing, I think, for this next year to increase the fan base, to establish the bandwagoners as loyal fans, to keep them there. Think outside the box, Indiana Pacers.
Think outside the bun.
Exactly. And I think everything will be fine. I think that they'll be back out there. Hopefully, we want to see it. I agree with you. It's annoying to see them not out there for games, to have 10,000 fans that, in a 20,000 Bankers Life seated arena out for a game on a Tuesday night. It's unacceptable.
Club's going down on a Tuesday.
You got it. Apparently something else is going down on Tuesdays, because even the 2 for Tuesday promotions the Pacers have is not getting the fans out there at times. So hopefully that will change, but I think that you're on the same page with me, Rhett, as we wrap it up here, that the Pacers fan base, that we have that established loyal fan base, but the bandwagoners need to catch on.
Yes.
And be more loyal.
I agree.
Now let me end with this prediction. Do the Pacers how much do the Pacers increase the attendance, do you think, this next year? If they're at 22 now, where do you think they get up to? Assuming you don't think they'll go down, certainly, with Paul George back.
I think that they'll probably be ranked right at 15.
You know what? I'm going to say 13. PG-13, Paul George's number on the return.
Like I should have done like 12 and a half.
Yeah, it should have, except you can't. So it's too late.
Fancies.
15, all right, I'll go with 13, and we will see. Write it down. Winner gets a hamburger. It's
Sounds
crazy.
good. I'll give you that deal.
Absolutely. Why not? Well, Rhett,
Say where.
exactly, and win. That'll be
Ooh.
perfect. We went a little bit over on this show as well tonight, but you know what? That's what happens when you get a lot of hashtag Great Pacers talk going on. And we certainly had that tonight, Red, as late as it is. We had some energy. I knew it was that Dr. Pepper you drank.
Yeah, it's a cherry Coke.
Well, same difference. Man, is
Not
it good.
even close.
How about that? Tomatoes. Interesting, but it was a great show, Rhett. We had a lot of good talk here tonight, and until next week for sure. But that is all that we have for tonight. So to recap what was talked about on the show, we discussed if the NBA should raise the basketball rim and change any other rules. Talked about if rings alone define a player's NBA career legacy. We chatted about the top 5 least favorite Pacers of all time. And we discussed Indiana's fan base. That is all that we have for tonight. Thank you for tuning into our show. Feel free to leave any comments. Tweet and retweet the show at Kyle M. Newman, at Rhett Hensley, and at Indiana Pacers Talk. We will be back at it next Wednesday by 8 Eastern Time, hopefully, unless our schedules don't allow for it and we have to pull another all-nighter. But I'm Kyle Newman.
And I'm Rhett Hensley.
Have a good night. Go Pacers.
Don't disrespect Jeff Pendergraph. Have a good night.
Indeed. Go Pacers.
Go Indiana.